Gamer's Garage.
Can't stop the train, baby. Woo!
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the 23rd round of VV Gaming's The Losers Bracket, hosted by the Gamers Garage. We've got the normal co-hosts here, Jerry Prohaska, Dakota Lasky, Justin Sabu, Jason Kuntz, myself, and we've got a really special guest for you today. We've got JediRob, the brain behind the Devastation event that just took place in Phoenix, Arizona about 2 weeks ago at this point. So I'm really excited to have him here on the show. We'll be getting to him in just a little bit.
Well, I'll open with a little bit of quick news. I want to give a really big shout-out to VV Smokey Prog. He got the top seed in the Guitar Hero group for ESWC in Paris, France upcoming. So we want to wish Smokey Prog a safe trip, a trip that has little jet lag, and have an awesome time in Paris, and congratulations. We're very proud of you.
He actually, as we were recording this right now, is on his plane to Paris, France. If you haven't seen the groups for ESWC, he's in a pretty rough group, but being the number one overall seed, I'm pretty excited for his performance. I can't wait. We're cheering him on. Best of luck to my good friend Robert. I think you're going to kick some ass, man. We're really excited for you.
And for those who may not know, the ESWC is the Electronic Sports World Cup. This event is being held in Paris, France. Their site is www.eswc.com, and we're going to be following Smokey Prog very closely. And you're right. Tell me a little bit more about who's in his bracket. You say he's got a really tough bracket?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's quite a few players from around the world that, were invited or qualified for this event. Some definitely really good competition in the Guitar Hero field. Test team from Korea is going to be there. Two of the really good Brazilian players, Lucky Sonic and Noah. Bonobi, one of the most amazing French players alive. It just so happens that Smokey has Lucky Sonic, Kuba, and Chaos Legend in his bracket, all three of which are very solid players. Some people would refer to this, I guess you could say, as the group of death out of the four groups that are currently scheduled for play at ESWC. Top two move on to the next round. I do think Smokey Prog can finish top two in this group. I do think he has a really good shot at taking top three at the event as well. I definitely say Bonobi and Test Team are his two biggest threats. And funny enough, they're both in the same group. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited. I wish there was a stream. Hopefully there's tons of pictures and videos for us to check it out next week.
And so everybody knows the other games that are going to be there, Counter-Strike. You're going to see all the top teams from SK Gaming to Dignitas, H2K. Anybody who's everybody is going to be there. Women's Counter-Strike. There's going to be Dota, Warcraft 3, Quake Lost, Super Street Fighter 4, FIFA 10, which unfortunately Mix couldn't attend because of other commitments, Guitar Hero 5, and for Speed Shift. So, I think this is going to be a great, event. I know that there's a history there at ESWC. I don't want to go into it too much. We're just going to look forward to see Smokey Prog, and hopefully he's going to walk out of there proving that he's one of the best in the world, which I think he is already. So, speaking of sort of Europe and esports news, since we're in Paris, let's pop over to SK Gaming. I noticed they picked up Team 5 for Han. Shadows Crush told us that obviously Han is definitely sort of making, I don't know how to say this, but it really seems to be getting a lot of play in Europe. But there's a lot of concern that North America, the population is dwindling. And that's combined with League of Legends being added as a promotional game for the World Cyber Games. I don't know. That's interesting to see that play out between those types of games in the same genre. So congratulations to Team 5. SK Gaming is a great organization, and I'm sure they're going to be taken good care of there. All right, once again, it's my great pleasure to introduce JediRob from Devastation, who just got off a really successful event.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
I'm going to let Jason tell you personally his experience because he's done nothing but rave about the quality. And I was just personally happy to hear that you had seats and free PlayStation, which really in itself speaks volumes to compared to some other things. But Jason, go ahead.
First things first, loved the setup. When I first walked in the room, I thought, wow, great setup for the event. Everybody had their own kind of station set up around. I liked that nothing was kind of segregated, although that did lead to one issue. We'll get into that later with sound. But
sure.
I loved that there were standard definition televisions everywhere. There was no lag, which is the biggest problem in rhythm gaming. It was phenomenal. Loved the seats with the screen so you could watch the stream as it was going live. Loved the fact that Swoozy was running around with the mic, getting people involved, getting people hyped up. Loved the fact there was giveaways. Everything just really clicked at the event, and I've got to congratulate you. It was honestly one of the best LAN events I have ever been to.
Oh, geez, very high praise. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
But we should get your impression. I mean, how did you feel the event well? What were some of the strengths?
I always want a bit more than what you guys see, and for what the players, the attendees, and the people that see stuff, like Jason was saying, it was a great experience. Everything was perfect. And for me, there was a lot of stuff. I'm like, I wish I had some more of this or some more of that, of course. But as far as how I felt the players and the attendees saw the event, it was a resounding success. To your point, Jason, about the CRTs and the type of monitors, I mean, we come from the gaming culture. So I know what TVs I'm supposed to use with what setups. I know what the resolutions are supposed to be, or my team, me right now. But, we know what we need to play on to give you, the player, the best experience. So that's why we have the damn CRTs, the 90-pound monstrosity that we have to do paper, rock, scissors each year. Who's going to pull those out of the storage unit because they're massive, from that to the seats. I go to events as well. And, I like to be able to sit down and have not only a seat for me, but a seat for my joystick or a seat for my buddy next to me. As you saw with our final setup, I went above and beyond with the seating, I think. I hope that was a big surprise and everybody enjoyed that.
Loved it.
So, yeah, that was part of the reason why we actually got that room is because once I found out they had that stadium theater seating in there, I'm like, oh, yeah, we're doing that. We're going to find a way to make it work. And again, like the layout of the room turned out as well as I could have seen it without putting lots of props and rigging and all kinds of other just stuff to make it look more presentable, I guess. There's always that. I follow function before form. A lot of people like, well, it needs to be aesthetic, it needs to be pretty, you need to have lights, things, and I'm like, nah, it needs to be set up very well, be functional for the players and the people to come and enjoy themselves and be able to find a free station to play on with a chair there. I don't need another stand-up sign of some character art. I'd rather be functional and let people play and have fun.
I know that the core group there in Phoenix has often been, from the Phoenix fighting community, so to speak. And obviously you have built an event that is definitely working to be one of the most all-inclusive gaming events we have out there right now. Can you talk about that transition from the focus of fighting to, your own personal vision as to why you've included so many different games from different genres?
Yeah. And not to go too much into detail for people who already know the story, but, this is an event that started up in my home 6 years ago. It was primarily a fighting game. My core group of people and players and people I know and hung out with all these years or hang out with were fighting game enthusiasts. And so, and I've talked before about, my vision of the most competitive gaming on the planet is that of the fighting game. But, and it's spawned from that in that we recognize that fighting games are very important to our core group of people. But, gaming is gaming, and, people who play rhythm games, people who play FPS shooter, whatever these different things are, they all can get together and coexist, and they can benefit from each other's experiences as well as, just being able to be exposed to something, going, gosh, I had people watching the shooters that didn't play shooters. I had shooters and rhythm guys watching fighting games. It's mixing all those different cultures together and understanding that it's okay for all these people to be together and to play. And so the event over the years has evolved into something where I want to try and cater to everybody. There is a downfall to that, and it's more to Jason's point that he talked about earlier, like with the different things. There is a level at which you can have all these people together, but just because they're together in their games doesn't mean it all blends and meshes well, which is always the harmony that you try and find. But, for me, it's about experience for all the different gamers. I want to have all these different people put in a room where they're able to feel like they're equals, to feel like, hey, you take care of this stuff, you have these games, you're letting me see other games that I wouldn't have otherwise seen, and things like that. So.
We'll talk about then some of the challenges or some of the things you'd like to sort of improve next year.
Oh, sure. Well, like challenges, and we could just speak on that piece of it because there's always that. With my vision of the way like the event was again this year, there's a pro and a con to having divided rooms. I think Jason, you and I talked about. There's one way for me to go, hey, I've got this giant room and I'm going to partition things off just by physical spacing. Going, the shooters are way over here, the rhythm guys are way over here. This main section is this is the retro. Here's the stage, and doing all that stuff allows everybody to be intermingled and not feel like one is primarily more important than the others. I mean, I think the shooters understand while they're over in that left side of the room and that the rhythm game was on the far right is because those people don't play well together. You can't have music going off while you got FPS shooters going off. And so, that camaraderie piece of it allows for a lot of problems in sound. Is probably the single most annoying thing. We had the big projectors up there. We were broadcasting some of the live stream in the room so people could feel a part of the live broadcast even though they weren't there on the stage. You've got all these game systems going off. You've got rhythm guys over here. You've got Susie or whoever's on the microphone announcing things and raffles, and you've got guys over there with headsets on trying to play shooters, and you've got arcade machines. And it's a giant freaking arcade. If you've ever been in, for those of us who are lucky enough to have been to or have gone to a very large arcade, it's a lot of damn noise. I mean, it's just stuff going on and people talking and just a consistent hum of things, which is not always the best circumstances for people to play particular games. On the flip side, we could do something where we actually had physical separated rooms where we got, you've seen that at different conventions. You've got this section in this hall, and then you've got a breakout room in this other thing where these guys are at, and there's another breakout room where those guys are at. And I've never felt that was the most, I don't know how to say it. It's the best way to go about it because you are automatically segregating different groups and thereby prioritizing different groups. Who's here, who's there. These guys don't feel a part of this. So it adds for a second layer of challenges in that, just trying to be able to pull people. Gosh forbid you need to pull somebody in there to the broadcast. Now you got to go to another room in another hall to find them. And other than getting a much larger space and spreading people way out, it's going to be something I'm going to have a challenge with as long as I want to keep going with this dream of this, intermixed room of people in gaming.
That brings us a little bit to the broadcast. I mean, DJ Wheat, obviously, and Swoozie, I think, overall did a fantastic job. I know that, that's a lot of work to spend all weekend on stream. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, we had commented on last week was, kind of understanding who decides what gets streamed, because obviously VV, Rhythm Gaming and Brawl, those two really didn't get a lot of attention on the stream. And we wanted to figure, we talked to you about, hey, how do those decisions get made? What are some of the challenges there? And understanding that, obviously you grew out of a fighting culture. So I don't want this so much to be as a complaint, but in some ways, if I could tell people, hey, don't hang out all weekend, they're never going to show Rhythm Games because of this reason, they can't. So that would be a big help.
One of the largest problems I have with the broadcast is that we simply can't broadcast everything. That's probably it makes me the most irritated in the world, is that I would like to, for me, I want to have everybody have something on there. And time is just against us. We just don't have enough hours in the day. As long as I keep doing the massive amount of gaming things. I mean, we had nearly 30 different tournament events covering, FPSs to rhythm games to different varying degrees of fighters or whatever the case is. And so just time against us is the first problem that we have, is we're only able to have this many hours in the day to be able to broadcast so many things. What's that limitation? Another one is spacing and technical things. I'm going to lump those together in that there's no way for us to physically, without some severe issues, is being able to put an entire FPS shooting thing up there. I think I listened to your other shows and you talked about the Halo setups and how they put them on the stage and things. And so this year we wrote off the FPSs. We're like, you know what? We don't have the technology and the way to be able to do a very good stream of all those multiple setups, because then you want to get into camera angles, different people's views, to be able to pop between the different 8 setups. And it just was just too much technically. When we sat down, we talked to Wheat's crew and those guys about what can we do with the live broadcast. And then we also had technology issues as far as, what systems could be hooked up easily and be able to bounce back and forth because of the way that we had decoders. And I'm not even going to, this is not my strong suit as far as upscalers, downscalers, decoders, things to put in this and split this signal off. That I'm a kind of a neophyte on those things. I don't know all the technology that I need to know to understand those things other than I can't do that or it's too difficult. We have to skip that. Okay. So we have our time limitations, we have our wish list of all the things that we'd like to do. Then we have our technology issues as far as what we actually can do with our budget. I mean, truth be told, if we had infinite amount of money, we can make anything happen. 99% of all issues related to events or anything else are financially restrictive. If I had an unlimited amount of cash, we could have broadcast everything. Well, not everything, but we could have had more things available to us to be able to do, like the FPSs if we wanted to.
For brawl and rhythm games, any challenges in those two games as far as streaming them?
I know that there was issues because of the CRTs. I can't speak to all this. I know that because primarily, if you watch, most of the broadcast that was done on the PlayStation 3. So we had an HDMI connection from the PlayStation 3 to said equipment. All the different things that are hooked up to that. Because Brawl and Guitar Hero and those things, with the CRTs, they've got to be played on component connections. There was a level of difficulty in being able to make those work. And I know there were some early on issues about, hey, we couldn't get this done, or, oh, we couldn't get this, and like, hey, we're just going to have to skip this, and we wanted to get like the finals done and some other things like that. So there were some issues as far as our equipment side and being able to connect something up with those things. I know that. I just don't know all the details of exactly what.
Gotcha.
And then also just like the space on the stage, like if you saw Jason, because you were there, and most people I think saw pictures of the stage setup. The way we had was a head-to-head. We had two setups, and not the head-to-head in the traditional sense. We had our station A and our station B, and we would switch back off. We would get the next people up on deck, getting their button checks off camera, and then we would switch to them, and then we would play that match, and then we would switch to the next set back on the other side as those other people were doing, and we just get a leapfrog back and forth all day, so we could get the maximum amount of matches and broadcast things going as we could. And with the CRTs getting in there were some real issues logistically about getting them up there, switching them out, and doing those things. If you watched on our finals day, we actually had to rotate the schedule from what we wanted to do originally. We ended up getting the Wii's up there first, which was, in this case, Super Smash Brothers and Tatsunoko versus Capcom were both played on the Wii initially, and then we had a little breakout session. We had to rip all kinds of equipment down, blah, 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 and connect all the PlayStations back up, and then left them then running the rest of the day. So it kind of came down, a lot of that stuff came down to just logistical issues and our limitations financially and, space-wise and technology-wise.
And let's see, somebody came to offer to maybe stream the things that couldn't be covered by one stream. That was
the other point I was going to make, is a second stream. Go ahead and finish your thought. I apologize.
No, not at all. I was thinking, like, if somebody from another organization were to come and wanted to stream at your event and, did it for their audience, not necessarily expecting you to pay for anything, would that be do you feel a benefit for Devastation?
Potentially, yes. We actually ourselves, when we found some of the issues that when we were sitting down with each team and everybody else, found out some of these issues, not early on, but before the event started, we kind of go, okay, we're going to have these hurdles, so we've got to kind of readjust our game plan as far as some of the things that we had wanted to do initially. And one of them was, well, what if we did a second stream? Now, barring the bandwidth allocation and the issues with that, and then just like Jason was talking about, trying to play a game while you're hearing this broadcast and the stuff going on or people announcing. Now you've got two different sets of announcers doing two different broadcasts, depending on the proximity and where that was at. What does that look logistically like? Again, infinite cash makes all kinds of things happen, but we even looked at doing that very thing. I'm like, well, what if we did this? What if we just did, like we talked about just for giggles, like the FPSs? What if we ran a stream for just the FPSs all day, and then we did something for like the music ones, was big ones we talked about? Could we do something like that where we could have those particular things streaming on like a secondary broadcast? And do we take away from existing users? Do people have to choose? How does that work with our bandwidth and our issues in there? So there was a lot of kind of iffies about that. And we put it on a hit list of things to think about and maybe test on a smaller scale between now and the next year's event, just because I don't know what that's going to look like. It would be interesting to have somebody do that for sure. I just don't know, even if we wanted to do that, what kind of complications that may actually provide us. What new challenges do we have?
If this were a Major League Gaming event, because they charge for almost every little thing they do, it's a very commercial type venture. And so they'll have issues with licensing and things because, most companies, when they see somebody trying to sort of nickel and dime consumers, they're going to step in and say, hey, you're definitely going to pay us for that. There's not a lot of flexibility. And have you ever had any license issues or anything like that about streaming? Have you been able to avoid all that because you don't charge and it's free, it's on your site?
That's 99% of the things. I think that even as I don't want to say we're big. I don't want to think that we're big in any kind of sense of the realm, but we're small, and we're small potatoes, and most people don't really put an eyeball on us. And, thank you, Activision, for allowing us to do the things with your games and stuff. But, no big brother has really come down on us and said, hey, here's a cease and desist letter. Thank you very much. I think that a lot of people maybe even hear about it, because I go and talk to these different game companies as well, going, hey, we're doing this thing. You want to be involved? Maybe no. Okay. Well, please don't throw the hammer at us. Then don't want to be involved. Don't stop us from doing these things, because they realize, I think a lot of them, that it is a community-based event, and that we are doing things to promote them and not to take away from them or to make money off of their labors and things. We're doing the stuff that we do out of love and doing out of care for gaming and the players and giving them a place to play and promoting their games in this case. And so we haven't had any licensing issues or any Big Brother issues yet, but I hear that could be a real issue with like the music games more than anything, because there are so many hands in those pots, because you've got, besides the developers and those guys who do this thing, you've got the artists themselves. So I've heard things about that, but I haven't encountered them personally yet, and I hope I never do.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of shows. I mean, from MTV to others, and I think fortunately a lot of the developers understand the difference. And to be honest, I've seen Major League Gaming. Obviously there's a lot of games there that they don't have full licensure for. So, I mean, I think the industry realizes that tournaments are good. And as long as somebody doesn't push the envelope in a way that, is a bit, for example, like I think Major League Gaming's World of Warcraft stream, that's obviously something people have to pay for. And Blizzard's clearly going to want to have a hand on that,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'd love, not that anything against them. It's like anytime you want, I can open the books, guys. I don't make any money on this thing. So please let me keep doing it for the community.
Yeah, and when anybody who were to hear this, I'm one of those people who, yes, please let them keep doing it, because, especially for our fan base that isn't able to attend the event, they really love watching. They want to know, who's playing, what the scores are. And, that was sort of a weekend that the whole community was sort of tuned to see what's going on at Devastation.
Yeah. And I was just saying, even past just the broadcast piece of it, just the streaming, I mean, realistically, a lot of these companies, even if they had no real legal grounds, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to speak to those things, but they could just harry and harass you from even running an event on their game, let alone broadcasting it. So, you get a letter from Big Brother saying, hey, please stop playing our game in your event, let alone you can't even broadcast it. So, fortunately, I think that, again, as you said, I think that they realize that these things are good for the community and promote their products, so.
Well, I think, and I mean, you're a professional, so you know where I'm going to come from when I've said this. I mean, I think, there's a whole process to anybody's sort of legal battles. And I think you could agree with me when I say this. The cost to sue someone would weigh, be above and beyond, the total worth of any one event, especially for a large company like Activision, who I'm sure does not hire teams that are cheap, to say the least. So, in the worst case, you do get a cease and desist letter. And I think in those cases, actually, I think that's the kind of stuff that, to be honest, when I think of it, if let's say I were a developer, right, and I whether it was Rock Band or it was Halo or something, and I said, wow, JediRob and Devastation, they're holding these tournaments, I'm going to send them a cease and desist letter. It seems like to do that would almost be suicide. Because all you would do then, because, once the community finds out that a game can't be played because the developer won't let them have a tournament, I really realistically wouldn't imagine a scenario like that would make much sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think that there would be anything like that because we have the internet and everybody would know, and that thing would be photocopied, scanned, and put on the internet, and everybody would talk about it. I think that they realize, not that that's a stick, but it's one of those things. It's like it's certainly something. It's like, come on, we're here, supporting your brand. We can support brand B if you'd really like, because there is a brand B if you want to think about it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as the market continues to grow too, there's so much competition. I mean, one thing that's really interesting about the U.S. and why I really like your event, I'm just going to be honest with you. In Europe and in Asia, when you look at like media and our time to throw these two together, the way I've always viewed it, and I think different people probably have a different viewpoint, but we have an enormous amount of challenge to demands on my team, on my time. I have great movies to choose from. I have great television to choose from. And I have all these video games to choose from. So, in other parts of the world, they don't have all the media choices we do. And in order to draw my attention to something, it's got to be quality. And I think that in a way, that's why I think when you're doing an event where you can cover so many different genres. I think that naturally is good because unlike maybe some countries which, let's take South Korea, StarCraft, they can do StarCraft and everybody will watch. Whereas in the U.S., you're not going to get that. You're going to almost have to get a small group of your rhythm gamers, some of your FPS, some of your fighters. And then as you spread it out over the genre, now you start to have sort of that collective mass that one day hopefully can be profitable, if you follow what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We were talking a little bit about the highs and lows. What is your personal sort of best moment of the event for you, or one or two highlights that you said, you know what, I had a blast. It actually drew you into the excitement.
Oh man, when I was whooping people's butt in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I didn't get my butt kicked, so that's all I cared about. What was some of the high points? Actually, for me, it's always about the people. The matches and things, because of what I'm doing and running around, I don't even get to watch a lot of the matches until after the event. Actually, I don't get to go back and see a lot of things. For me, I had a few people, and one particular kid and his dad came up to me and they're like, "Hey, thank you so much for putting this on. We've been looking for something to do. This is amazing. We wish we heard about this earlier," that kind of stuff. Those moments when I meet a kid like James, or I meet another guy that had came up to me named Fred, that was just like, "Dude, this is the best thing ever. I'm glad that I came to this thing. I wasn't sure. I didn't know what to expect. I came here, and this is freaking amazing. I'm so happy for that." That stuff's the stuff that always sticks with me. Or when one of our supporters comes up and like, "Whoo, I did not imagine that this would be so awesome." That kind of stuff.
Well, I'm gonna have to confess too that as pictures started coming in and started paying really close attention, I have to say it was really awesome to see. The passion is there. That's the first thing. The practicality you mentioned earlier, form, is not as important as just having really good function. And, you can tell. I mean, it just really shows. So, again, congratulations on that.
Thanks. If I had to pick one thing, it was when my boy Juicebox, because he's from Arizona here. Oh, Juicebox doing the steamrolling through Super Street Fighter 4 for a little bit there. It was so exciting. I wish the poor kid didn't get trounced in the end, but he did a very good job. I was very proud of him.
Let me tell you, from my personal experience watching Juicebox when he was on stage playing, the kid just had an amazing swagger to him. And even though, I didn't personally know him before this, I can tell from, my experience there in the crowd, everyone that was around me, whether they knew the kid or not, was just around, just screaming for him, wanting him to win, stomping on the bleachers and cheering and, getting excited when he hoisted his joystick over his head when he hit an ultra at the end of a match. And it was just absolutely intense and wonderful to watch. Great to spectate.
The fun thing about Juicebox, a lot of people take it the wrong way. Like we said, swagger, and it's swagger in just the physical motion of it. But he so loves the game. I spend a lot of time with him because he lives here. I play with him all the time. I hang out with him, and he just has such a passion for playing that it's not even cockiness that does that stuff. When he does that stuff, he means it. He loves it. He is having a good time. He's feeling it. He's so excited about the ultras and the acting out. I know a lot of people pick on him and make fun of him, calling him a retard or whatever the case is that they call him because of those things. But he is so into it and such a proponent of these things that it just makes you feel good when you see somebody who just truly enjoys playing the game. Even when he loses, he's just like, "Man, that was awesome."
It's funny. One of the things Jason had come back from Devastation, and he said, "Jerry, EG just picked up Marn, and Justin Wong's out there, but I'm telling you, if we can get our hands on Juicebox and sponsor him, we should do that." And as the week went on, I'm talking to players and people all the time, and even outside of our little VV community. And I don't want to mention anyone's name, but the person is probably listening and knows who they are. But they sent me this email, and they said, "Jerry, I don't know. I don't ever tell you what to do, but you've got to see if you can pick up Juicebox because he's one of those people who just draws people in, And I thought about that, drawing people in, and then Jason started telling me some of that. But those are the kind of players also, in my humble opinion, golf has its Tiger. You need people who have charisma in order to generate, a little bit of interactivity that draws the crowd in. And to be honest, I was surprised that a lot of the I guess the Street Fighter 4 names we're more accustomed to hearing. Juicebox doesn't come up a lot for some reason. This Devastation that seems to be the talk of the town.
He made his first real appearance last year at EVO and just surprised the crap out of people with his Apple at the time. And since then, around here, he's been doing really good. His biggest limitation is that he doesn't have great competitors to play against. We have Saber and some other guys, Mr. SNK, that are really solid players, but nobody really to Juice's caliber to really push him. He doesn't get to play the Vaies or the Wongs on and often enough to be able to really change his game as it goes. He evolves it as he plays in the tournaments, and it's not enough time to practice and do things with that. So he has to take that back, take what he's learned, and then make something of that after the fact. And so it's much harder for him than somebody like Marn and Wong who play each other all the time and play really high level, very good mix-ups and things. It's that's why you don't hear a lot about him. You'll hear more about him. You'll hear more. Is he's going to keep
so. I really do.
He's young. He's got a lot of years to begin to play, so at any rate.
So yeah, if he's listening, let him know that VV Gaming would love to have him give us a holler.
I've got a couple of friends that are looking to sponsor him. Some other competitors, essentially, that would not like me to say that, but I'll pass it along.
And for good reason. I mean, credit to Juicebox. This is what he earned. I mean, when you make the kind of favorable attention, performance, it gets everyone's attention, and that's outstanding. Speaking of attention, there was something else that I know that Justin had brought up to me earlier, and he said, because we do small tournaments and stuff, and then an interesting thing, how do you decide the prizes for tournaments? I don't know how you can or cannot go into, but what's the basic sort of like framework for how you kind of structure your prizes?
Sure. And it's community rules. And those are enough people that know about community run events. It really is what people put into the pot comes back out. And that's what it's been for us, because we have not been, all my finances, all the things that I put into this and the few dollars that I get from the supporters and those people that do stuff is to making sure that we actually have a cool event that actually facilitates that stuff. And we have never really put much emphasis on prize money and things of that nature. We just let the community, whatever the community gets and puts in there, that's what we do. I am working towards, I've had a few conversations with supporters last year or, through this event and coming up to actually make it more like, we're going to put a guaranteed amount. Here's the amounts that you're going to win. Here's the prizes, which I'll call them more professional tournaments and gaming things. Like a great example is like the PC community. Those guys, not spoiled, but they're used to having hey, by the way, come to this invitational. It's a $50,000 prize purse and stuff like that. And that at a community level isn't feasible.
No, not at all.
With the stuff that comes out of my pocket and the dollars that I get and cents that I get to be able to put towards those things, we just don't have that kind of money to throw at that. I would rather spend that on the event. Even then, it's just not those dollars and cents to be able to throw prize purses to bring the players to come. So
coming fresh off the event with everything sort of still very recent, I wanted to ask, looking to next year, if you were to, has there been any thought of we're probably not going to include a title for next year or something?
Oh, sure.
And then what you think you're going to add for next year and what your sort of reasons are as you think about it.
It's finally time to put to bed some of the older titles that we've had. Pretty much, PlayStation 2, I love you, you're gone. It's just not, it's not drawing the anymore. We did this as a last year. Again, there's a lot of other events out there that really cater to the new hotness or a very specific set of games where I've always tried to cater to the fans and the community and having games like Guilty Gear and Third Strike. I've supported those games forever, and it's just now people aren't playing those anymore. Or our time frame when we hold the tournament isn't very conducive to players coming here. So it's one of those things is like for pulling all those PlayStation 2s out, having all those setups, trying to run extra tournaments for those particular titles, it just doesn't make sense, especially when we consider the some of the technical limitations that we have for even broadcasting those. It's, boo on that. So we're going to move away from a lot of the older legacy titles like the Third Strikes, like the Guilty Gears. Tekken Tag was kind of a fun thing this year because we thought we might have some of the Korean players come, and it was a little bit of a fanfare for some other guys, so we did that. I don't think that will be here next year. Now, it might be in a side tournament. We'll have those setups there for casual play, but we're not going to facilitate tournaments and games on that. We have to. They're just, hey, let's go play. Go do your own thing. You want to organize a side event? Go ahead. So I would see a lot of churn on those particular titles. As far as the big titles that we have, I would expect, again, supporting our game roots is that, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is coming out. I would imagine that will be here, especially by the time we do the event, as well as Mortal Kombat 9 seems very interesting interesting. I'm intrigued to at least try something with that. I always try something once. We'll do the tournament and see what happens. Soul Calibur, some of the other games probably not be around. Like this year, we were pretty much Soul Calibur 4's only major event for the year. Nobody else is holding an event like that. We had, if you watched any of the Soul Calibur stream, we had all top players come and compete in that event. But I don't know that will be here next year. Looking forward to some other shooters like Gears of War 3 will be out, so I'll probably put that back in the mix. The FPSs we usually keep to the new hotness because those communities usually jump back and forth, except for the committed Halo MLG crowd. Usually the shooters kind of move to the new hotness. You know, they're playing Call of Duty now because that's what's hot. When Gears comes out, a lot of those guys switch gears, pun intended, to the new game.
All right.
And as well as, you know, keeping an eye on the different rhythm games. I'm seeing what's coming out. You know, DJ Hero 2 is coming, so we'll see what comes of that. You know, I'm not sure if I'm always interested to hear people's takes on the different the rhythm games. We hear a lot of Rock Band versus Guitar Hero go back and forth. You know, the Rock Band crowd and the Guitar Hero crowd shouting back and forth. Maybe a little bit of both this coming year.
Well, did you get a chance, Rob, to watch the Guitar Hero finals by chance?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think even heard Jason's broadcast last time, is that we had it up on the stage because we had to do a setup for that early morning because Smokey Pro, I want to say, do I say his name right?
Yeah, Smokey Pro. Yep.
He was feeling ill, you know, like, and a lot of people do this, but he was feeling ill that night where we were supposed to finish up the finals. He asked if we could have a stay over till the next day. I went and talked to Asai, talked to his parents, talked to the other guys. Brock, I think, was the other player that was involved, and said, hey, do you guys mind if we move this? If we do it, we can facilitate it. We got to do it in the morning. We got to do it before everything else is because we didn't have it slated, and everybody was good with that. You know, the community kind of taking care of each other, and we held that up there on the stage in the morning because that's the only setup we had left. If you heard anything about how we had to destroy the room that night, there was no other setups in the house, but was on the stage. So we set that up, and that was a great battle. And my understanding is, like, I know Asai didn't win because of a glitch. Was there something with the key? I'm not I don't know all the ins and outs of the game, but apparently I watched that was neck and neck for a long time, and then there was some little thing that you did it with 3 keys at one point and ended up winning it for him. It was really intense.
There's a trick.
The whole time. There's
a trick in Guitar Hero 5. It's basically there's a tick glitch when we have longer notes, and Smokey used it and actually pulled ahead by a couple of points. And if it wasn't for that, things would have been a little bit different. The thing that was really interesting, though, it's either player can do it.
For sure.
And the thing that's really interesting is, you know, it was so even with that, you know, back and forth. The fact that it went best of 5, 2 rounds, all the way up to the 10th song, and the 10th song was as close as it was absolutely fun to watch. I have a personal question to ask you, which is that,
please,
with how fun it was to watch those finals, do you think even just possibly we could get the finals of Guitar Hero on the stream next year or something of that nature?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see that. I'm fine with it. When we look at, like, and I'm not that great of a producer of streams and things of that nature, and what people want and what people want to see. You know, I know there's a lot of people like to see a lot of the fighting games because they can watch, like, it's a story unfolding for them as far as these two characters. You can see the life, you can see what's going on. And I've heard conflicting things about streaming Guitar Heroes and those rhythm games, is watching those things go back and forth. It's more about seeing the players and their actions than the actual broadcast of the in-game screen. But I know I would be willing to absolutely try that. It might be something we do early in the morning to kind of see how people respond to that. But I would be fine with doing something like that. I think it's exciting. I personally like the rhythm games. I can't play them for crap. But I do casually with my kids. My kids are better than I am. They irritate the crap out of me that they can play better than I can. I'm like, how do you move your hand? I can't even move my fingers across those damn keys. But yeah, I would be very willing to try something like that. I think it's a good vibe in the room. I think that having that up on the big screen and having the music going throughout the house, I think that would be pretty fun to do. Commentating on that, I'm not quite sure. That'd be kind of fun to see how that goes.
Well, when you're commentating on Guitar Hero, it's different. It's definitely different. You've got to know a lot of the techniques, because honestly, there is a lot of competitiveness to Guitar Hero Rock Band that people don't know about, like the squeezing, which is, you know, knowing where to activate star power and abusing the timing window to activate the star power as late as possible without missing a note, so that at the very end of the star power you can hit the last note early so you can get one extra note under. I mean, there's a lot of extra technique that is involved there, just to make sure that you can pull out a little bit. Because I mean, hey, I mean, here's a story that I tell quite frequently. There was a match between Alec, the second place finisher at Devastation this year, and myself at WCG last year, where he beat me by 8 points, which is 1/25th of a note. So when it comes to those competitive matches, it can be very entertaining, especially when, you've got an entire crowd behind you watching, and they're, got their hand over the mouth when a hard part's coming up, watching to see what happens, who's going to miss, if both people are going to make it through, keep their streak alive. It's fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would be very interested to try and do something with that, especially if we can get some approval from some people so we don't have to have any licensing issues or slaps later, because when that gets up on the internet and they're like, how YouTube smacks down video content like that.
Yeah, we've been fairly lucky. Our YouTube channel has always got a ton of comment. And what happens is you get a little warning.
Yeah.
Then they review it and they never really take it down. So that's
cool.
That's always been our experience. And we've done it for charity work too, like Smokey Prog does charity events where he streams Guitar Hero for 24 hours. And he attempts to, do things where he tries to FC every song. And all those we record and we put up there. So hopefully that's not too big of an issue.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it would be pretty entertaining for the crowd. Like, I think that we might even do something like that next year if we do another VIP party or something like that, where we actually have, instead of just the DJs coming in and playing music like they did, be having some of those guys going up on stage and playing in the big screen so people have that music playing for them. That would be kind of interesting to see that.
Well, thanks. Well, listen, this brings us near the end of this segment, and I want to thank you again for coming on our show, and I want to congratulate you on an awesome event.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Again, it's the players and the people that make it a successful event. If it was just us and there would be 6 people with a room full of games. So I appreciate everybody coming out and supporting us and continuing to do that. I appreciate that so much.
Well, I can promise you'll see VV Gaming again there next year because, and we definitely want to be kept posted on all the things. And if you need anything from us, if you have any ideas you want to bounce off of us, please let us know.
Actually, that was something I was going to bring up. Is I love each year. This year is different than last. I mean, it's larger. It's a different production and things that we did, and we've been contemplating a few various changes for the event next year. Looking at a couple of everything from change of time of year to venue to state to as well as just overall format of that. I would love feedback, just like Jason asking about the finals. Feedback that anybody has about, hey, maybe this and how about this? Did you think about these things? Because again, we're not a big corporate entity. We're nimble. We can make it whatever we want to be. And if it seems to make sense, I'd love to include things. So please, any feedback, I would be happy to take that.
I'll give you 2 things to look into that might be helpful. Every year I go to 2 pretty significant board and role-playing conventions. One is in Columbus, Ohio, called Origins. The other is called Gen Con, which is in Indianapolis. And Origins usually draws somewhere about 10 to 11,000 people, and Gen Con usually pulls about that's the big one. That's about 25, 30,000 every year. Gen Con, I know, has a video game arena, and I'll actually be out at Gen Con this year specifically to sort of look at that space, see what they're doing with it, see what they want to do with it. Because basically they have contracted sort of a service to come out and bring all these 360s and bring all these PlayStation 3s and bring all these Wiis. And they have these big sort of free PlayStation set up. And they have some minor tournaments and events going on, but they don't have anybody that I would say gets the bigger picture. So, I've been talking to people there, and sort of offline, I'll share with you some contact information so you can look at those 2 potential places to sort of bring the Devastation brand maybe some years down the road if that's something that interests you. If you want to change venues without having to, load up a giant truck and have to cart everything all around, cross straight lines and everything, which may be something you want to do too, but you might not have to.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's another thing is we've been talking to some various other entities about running events for people, which we are totally capable and willing to do as well. So we pack up our stuff, put together an event for somebody else. That's completely feasible. So. Well,
I think after seeing what I saw at Devastation, I definitely have no problem passing that along. And I'm sure, at the end of August when I get back, I'll probably hit you up and let you know what I saw and what I'm thinking, and I'll probably show you some pictures and then give you some contact information. Maybe that'll be of some help.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for that. Again, that stands open to anybody. If there's any ideas, I welcome them because it helps us. My group, my core group of leadership team, as we call them, the guys who are really in the know and decide a lot of these things. We're not omnipotent. we can come up with the ideas and things that we see, and we love the influx of ideas. I have a notebook full of stuff from this last year from people coming up and talking, and I take notes on everything that people tell me, and so I put that away and we pull that out and we start talking. We started 2011's event 2 days ago, so already planning for next year.
Awesome. All right, then this brings us to the end of this segment. JediRob, thank you so much for being there. Do you want any final shout-outs to anybody?
Oh my gosh, there's too many to list. Thank you, the entire team, our supporters, everybody who came and helped make the event happen, our volunteers, the players, and all the people on the broadcast. I mean, the list is so long, I couldn't actually name everybody. I feel like it's the Oscars, and I want to thank my mom and my dad. Everyone, thank you very much. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, the next thing that I want to talk about is what happened to Active Rush. Talk to me about Ambush. What's going on? Because the community wants to know.
Basically, ever since Columbus, we've had a lot of disagreements that we've attempted to work out. It came to the point where Iceman decided to say, enough is enough. It's obviously not getting any better. He decided to leave Active Rush, which he thought, for both sides it'd be better off, and he ended up joining Ambush. Shortly after that, within a couple of hours, Ambush actually had approached me as well and had asked me if I'd like to coach them. So I'm kind of close to Iceman, so I went and instantly joined with them.
So everybody knows when they hear this, I've put an offer out to Ambush. Basically the same offer that we had given Active Rush because we want to continue working with Iceman and you. So hopefully we'll hear something soon on that.
Iceman and I will always want to be a part of VVV. Batman was all for the idea. The only two we're waiting on is Frosty and Powwow. They haven't really been on the past couple of days. They've been a little busy, so we'll definitely know by the end of today.
All right, guys, I want to talk to you about introducing a new segment to the show, and hopefully our audience is going to be interested in this, but I want to actually focus on some VVV news and maybe talk about some of the inner workings of VVV gaming. That way, the community knows what's going on. And one thing that I want to share with all of you, and instead of doing a rant this week, I actually want to talk about each of you guys, and I want you guys to be honest and share your thoughts with me. I've noticed that there seems to be a core group of players and people who have a tough time with Mrs. Violence. And I noticed that Mrs. V seems to get the brunt of all this drama. I noticed it in our Gears of War League tournament conversation where somebody called her a dumb bitch, so we just booted and banned that person from the shout box without question. And I had a couple other members from VVV come to me saying, well, Mrs. Violence always gets her way. And I thought, wow, I really have no clue. So I thought in this podcast we would focus on something really central to our community, where Mrs. Violence fits in, the things we hear that upset other people, and have an honest and open discussion about it. To be honest, VV Gaming's grown up a lot, and instead of me ranting about how ridiculous it is that, I get some of the conversations between some of our core members, my sort of theory on this is that Mrs. Violence has a tendency to exaggerate and use a lot of marketing language when she's discussing herself. For some people, that just seems to drive them nuts. And they seem to get all bent out of shape as if in some ways Mrs. Violence is not being authentic and she's misrepresenting herself. And I wonder, if you felt that way about somebody, certainly the words that would come out of my mouth would not be dumb bitch. I would ask for clarification. I would ask for what you mean, that sort of thing. But what do you guys think? Is it because women get attention? Do you think it's because...
Well, one thing about Kelly, Mrs. Violence, is that she's very blunt. She speaks her mind 24/7. And when she does such a thing, I think that a lot of people take that the wrong way. They take offense because she doesn't sugarcoat. She does not screw around whatsoever. So because of that, yeah, some people kind of, I guess she rubs them the wrong way. Which, I don't know, she does rub some people the right way, but that's a totally different story. But I digress. She has a very, I guess you could say almost aggressive personality at times. And because of that, yeah, some people are going to be taking offense to the way she talks. And then there kind of is a little bit of backlash. It's just, once you get to know her, she is a person that is honestly, she's very opinionated, but she's fun to talk to. and she's just not afraid to speak her mind. So, yeah, some people are going to take offense, but once you get to know her, she's a good person.
As much as unmodest I am, I like to stay neutral on these things. Because of that, I sort of like to look at both sides. She's part of a community that's very passionate about the game that they play, and that's Gears of War. And because of that, I think, like Jason said, she's very opinionated, and that carries over into her love of the game. And because of that, when she gives an opinion, other people are very likely to disagree with it. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is she'll say an opinion and maybe people will take that as offensive or whatever the case may be. I don't see her treated differently, and again, I mean, I'm not trying to analyze it in a way that skews, what people feel. It's just people are passionate, and when someone throws their opinion into the ring, people are going to have, disagreements with it. And she's not one of the people that, and I commend her for it, to quiet herself when she has an opinion. Whether or not that's good for every situation, I don't know. And a lot of times it may not be, because a lot of people have their opinions too. Very nice person, never had any problems with her. It's part of the community she's part of. In the end, there's not really much you can do with that.
She was on a popular TV show, and, when you get attention, like being a pro player or being on a TV show like that, you're always going to have those people that for some reason don't like you. It could be based off anything, whether she's a girl or plays a game a certain way or anything like that. Because I myself, being a pro coach, I receive a lot of crap from people, and I don't even know them or even know what I did wrong half the time. A lot of that hate from people will come from something like that, just because she's receiving the attention and, other people might not be. But honestly, I think she's a really cool person. I mean, I've only seen her as pretty much as one of the guys on VVV, There's not a lot of girls associated with VVV. So when she's on, it's just, she's like one of the guys to me, honestly. And she sits there, she knows how to game, she knows what she's talking about, and she's very honest. She's open about anything. So
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't like that.
I'll tell you a funny story. I had somebody, comment to me today that the person we booted was on someone's Facebook page, and that person got all of a sudden all upset, and they got another person. They came to me sort of in this, I don't want someone like Mrs. Violence representing VV Gaming. And, I have to pause for a minute, and this is where I'd normally rage, but I'm not going to rage, because it so knocked me out of the water that I thought, and what the hell have you done? One thing I want to do is I want to define the GB random, the game battles random. And what that is a person who basically hangs out on forums and basically throws stones at people. So if a player's good and really good at a game, you'll make fun of the way they look. If somebody who's an average gamer and looks really good, you'll talk about how they never won a tournament. Or if somebody, is laying semi-pro, you'll be the person who kind of complains that they're not pro. But what I'm trying to get each person to sort of think about is themselves. Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and focus on yourself. On this show, we're critical of a lot of people. But, that's the losers bracket. We are critical. That's why I have a rant. This is what we do. We critique. And if somebody doesn't like that, they're more than welcome to that. But, we go off on Major League Gaming. We go off on players. We're the ones who've done nothing but explain what kind of a disaster Empire Arcadia is. I'm just glad that Justin Wong left Empire Arcadia, finally getting a real sponsor, because there might be things about Sir Scoots I don't like. But I'll tell you what, the one thing I wouldn't take away from EG is the fact that they do take good care of their players. That's a fact. And Justin Wong, to be honest, deserves a lot better than that, right? And I think we're going to see Empire Arcadia basically empty out. At the end of the day, and, I just want to make it clear that, I'm aware of a lot of things. You have to look at yourself and ask yourself, are you being a GB random, right? For example, I was listening to Slasher talk on DJ Wheat's show, and there was some part of me that wanted to be like, just hold on there, Sling Blade. Take a moment, take a breath, hold on. I understand I called you, a fucking retarded monkey and your butt hurt, but you're really not doing yourself any credit. Right, and commenting anything about licensing, saying that we're only rhythm gaming, saying that we're only brawl, giving me some lecture on how rhythm gaming is never going to be as big as, you're not doing yourself any service at all, right? Crying that we took the word fluff, you're not doing yourself any service. So, that's not the place to go. I don't even want to address Slasher because I thought what he said was embarrassing. If we actually cut and put it into the show, I could deconstruct it, but that was a freebie. And I give DJ Wheat credit for not cutting any of it. His show is live and he does it live, good or bad, and I give him a lot of credit for that. to those of you in the VV community, the ones that get pissed off at Mrs. Violence or the one, you should really think deeply about what you're doing. It has nothing to do with us shielding Mrs. Violence, right? She is in an enormously complicated, male-dominated environment, and I think she navigates it fairly well, to be honest. So if you think I protect her, one, I don't think she needs any protecting. But if you come to me crying about something that she said, you really are going to fall on deaf ears. If you feel that something she said, she's misrepresented herself, then state it. But if that's your big issue, you really are a GB random. My advice is to go out there and do something, right? Go out there and compete in a tournament and win. Go out there and get on Ultimate Gamer. And don't be so negative. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Dakota, have you experienced that kind of cynicism I'm talking about?
You're going to get that negativity anywhere you go. Yeah, I mean, I hear it, and it sucks to hear it, but you're going to hear it. And I'd rather these people, whoever has the negative comments or whatever the case may be, just get their opinion without making it into a fight, because that's what it seems like every time someone tries to do that. We'd all be better off if people just would listen to each other rather than making it like a personal attack,
And to be honest, I think that's what makes our community so great is we have that at a minimum. Like we have almost a zero tolerance for that. I mean, if you were to go to other forums, I think it's like, monkeys. I mean, Justin, you came from the Halo community. I mean, what do you think?
For the people that made it to the Ultimate Gamer Show, for the people that are pro players, pro coaches in leagues, they made it there for a reason. Like, they weren't just chosen at random. They worked their way up and got on to those specific shows or those, they got the pro player agreements and stuff like that. They didn't just get it overnight, and it wasn't just handed to them. A lot of the criticism I see every day on the MLG forums and stuff about certain players are coming from people that have never even gone or participated in a tournament, not to mention even placing. Like, a lot of these people don't even place, and they're sitting there giving us crap. And I think if they actually sat down and looked at it, these people have actually placed top 8 before multiple times, and they've won a lot of money. Maybe they actually deserve it. One day people can actually sit there and realize it, but not anytime soon. Now you just get all these randoms just that like to talk crap and get their opinion heard just to get that 30 seconds of fame, pretty much.
Our community has something special to it, As Jerry said, we have a no-tolerance policy, basically, for any sort of drama in the forums. Jerry's always told me, ban first, ask questions later, and that's...
Absolutely.
That's a rule that I've followed in my time as an administrator for VV Gaming. And it's funny because once you do that, people chill out. And there is a loving camaraderie around VVV Gaming. Look at a member like VVV Jolly, who hasn't really even been able to be around the forums that much lately, but he still feels pride in having those 3 Vs. That's what a community needs to be. We don't need the randoms that are going to run around going, get raped, and well, at least, seriously. He's saying it jokingly, yeah, that's different. But the people that are there just to troll and say things that are going to hurt people's feelings, and no, that's what makes our community special. We have something better than that.
I just wanted to go back to the whole slasher thing. I've been listening to Live on 3. I always found it interesting to be able to see what DJ Weed is doing. I always thought that pretty amusing. And I think one of the things that I personally liked was that I can tell they're passionate about it, that at least they care just like we do. It's not like something like to critique just to critique or to hate just to hate. That they are passionate about what they do. As much as we may not agree with what they say sometimes or agree with what other people say about us sometimes, we are passionate just as anyone else is. I'm hoping that throughout our relationship between both groups, we can have more respect for what we say about each other. But I was just going to point out that I understand where Slasher's coming from. I understand where DJ Wheat's coming from, whatever they say. And personally, I think DJ Wheat handled himself very well, and just that they're passionate about what they do just as we are, and I like that people are very passionate about the communities they are in and the games they play. I just thought that was a really good quality of what I've been seeing recently.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of the show. I want to give a big thanks to Crash and the Gamers Garage for hosting the show. I know Crash has been going through so much, and they're definitely moving forward, but every step they take forward, I know there's always challenges. So I want to wish Crash and the whole team at the Gamers Garage the best of luck with everything going on. I want to thank our sponsor, SteelSeries. Again, I look forward to all of you seeing the video we shot with Kim Rom. I'm excited to this next year that we have with SteelSeries. I want to give a big shout out to Control Freak. Thank you so much for the American Express gift cards. I really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the people that support you. MusicSkins.com and Custom Ink, as always. I want to give a big thanks to the VV community for your feedback and support. I finally this summer have a chance to call on, and Doomhammer and I are going to be able to play Ion, and I'm excited to get back and be on Ventrilo and have the fun times that we always do. I want to remind everybody, don't forget to stop over at thegamersgarage.com. You guys know how to follow us on Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter. And don't forget to listen to the other great podcasts that are hosted by the Gamers Garage. As always, you can leave us feedback by calling our voicemail at 206-350-7352. And you can leave us an email at mailbag@thegamersgarage.com.
I want to give a shout out to Crash for being really awesome, helping us, get the show together, editing it, being a really awesome guy. He's always around on the forums, and he's just, a really, really awesome guy. Huge shout out to him. And I also want to give a shout out to the deer that crossed the street later. Earlier, I almost hit them, but I didn't in my car, so that's why I'm here today. I didn't hit those deer. So props to those deer for not getting in my way and, me crashing and stuff. So that's cool. It's good stuff.
I want to give a shout out to Dakota, Jason, and Jerry, along with Crash, for being such amazing people with the show. Give a shout out to my team, everyone on Ambush. I want to wish Smokey Frog and Mimic and Aries best of luck. And, also a shout out to my family.
One more shout out from me to JediRob. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It was a pleasure, as always, having you here. Big thanks to the entire Devastation crew again. I'm still reeling from that. I'm actually going to be heading out right after recording this show. I'll be heading out now to Atlantic City, New Jersey for another tournament. I'll be doing the Total Rock, Total Rewards rock band competition that Harrah's and MTV are doing together. I should be able to give you some details on how that went on next week's show. Definitely looking forward to that. Big shout out to the people that are throwing that tournament because I'm very excited. There's actually supposed to be some surprises for us. Ooh, I can't wait to find out what they are. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thanks to the VV community. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.